Ladies and gentlemen, this is Breaker, and I'd like to go ahead and just welcome you to today's cast. This is actually a replay that I took from the front page of Drop.sc, and that was actually a really cool loading interface, but let's go ahead and give it up for both of our players in the lower right-hand corner, spawning as our Terran in the red trunks. I give you all iSHOKZ. From now on, I'm just going to call him Shox and hope he's alright with that. And in the upper left-hand corner, spawning as our teal Protoss, I give you all IMPG sLh. And this is going to be a TVP, so this is going to take me out of my comfort zone, relatively speaking, and I think I'm going to enjoy casting this just from a first glance of the replay. It's bite size and things of that nature. That typically indicates that it is going to be an extended length replay. Rule of thumb is, if a replay is more than 100 kilobytes in size, then typically it lasts longer than 20 minutes, because of course you're doing more than just loading a bunch of triggers and events that happened in a map. You're actually loading, well, basically a timeline of all of those triggers and such on a map. Now, I'm a bit curious as to what both of our players are going to go with for their opener. I actually can't tell which tournament this was taken from. I imagine it was taken from something rather high name, as you guys did see the loading screen, and you probably got a better glance at it than I did because I was too focused on managing my XSplit. But other than that, I guess I could say I am relatively happy with how things are going to go tonight, because this morning I just received the last of the replays from TESL. So that means I'm going to be casting tonight's competitors, and yes, that is including Azubu-san and Azubu Top, if I'm not mistaken. If not, it will eventually involve one of those two players, and it looks like our Protoss is going for a double gas opener. That means we could see a multitude of things. Double gas before cybernetics core is indicative of one of three plays. That's going to be Sentry Expand, Twilight Council, Stargate. I would say somewhat likely that it could also be Robo Bay play, but again, that's all going to depend on what our Protoss decides to go with. And speaking of, he just got his probe into the main of his opponent. I think he did take a minute to click on the refinery just to see how much gas was taken on it, and that cues him in onto just how much gas his opponent has taken and just what he can do with it. But giving it just a moment's glance and seeing whether or not this probe gets caught out in the open. Whoa, 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 whoa. That will tell us whether or not he's going for a tech up, but what is this all about? Interesting. Well, we don't have a sentry on the way, so that means that our Protoss is saving gas for something, but the question is just what the hell is it going to be? He's looking for some kind of... I don't know what he's looking for right here. Maybe he's just, you know, inspecting, making sure there's no proxy play going down. Nexus is about to go down. Excuse me, it just got started. And we have Cybernetics Core getting the first... the gateway tech on the way, but this Reaper just completely bothering the crap out of the probes, and it did get a kill. That's actually a good bonus for it, but that is not the main role of the Reaper. It's supposed to go in, scout, poke around and annoy the hell out of their opponent, and just basically, I guess, delay mining time. But ooh, 2 probe kills. That's actually kind of big. Not the end of the world, but I mean, it does give Shox just that teeny bit of an edge over his opponent. In terms of income, as you can see right now, it's still a little bit higher for our Protoss, because I believe he's been putting all of his chrono on the Nexus. Yes, he has been, and there's our tech up, the robotics facility. And behind this, it seems that Shox is going to go for a factory, probably get some Hellions out, maybe even aim to harass his opponent, but for the moment, he's actually just taking... He's getting double Marines out, 2 Marines at a time. One of them goes around, just scouts and makes sure that there's no proxy pylon around here, as you can see with the revealed Fog of War on the minimap. And double gateway going down along with that robotics bay. This is somewhat reminiscent of Naniwa's PvP play at last weekend's MLG. Yes, day before yesterday as well as yesterday. Very interesting show match, just to say the very least. But the refinery number 2 is on the way, and we have a tech lab going down. This is interesting. So there's a mothership core out that can activate photon overcharge on at least one of these next in the near future. But by the time I think we're gonna probably see a Banshee. No, we're not. We're gonna see a medevac, and we're gonna see sHOKZ go straight into stim. Indeed, we are. Now, when's he gonna crank it out? When's he gonna crank it out? Does he have enough money for it? Yet? Maybe? No. Give it just a moment, and we will see. It looks like he was forced to cancel some structure or another. He probably hit the wrong key. He did get 94 minerals back. Somehow, that makes me lean towards saying he just lost an engineering bay. We do have an observer coming out now for sLh, really wanting to keep the tabs on his opponent. Both players continuing to take it into the macro phase of the game. Another observer out on the map. No Immortals on the way just yet, but it looks like there it is, the medevac with those 4 Widow Mines inside of it. And what is our barracks gonna do here? Wait a minute. As long as that barracks isn't landed, as long as that barracks isn't building add-ons, I'm somewhat inclined to say that perhaps we will see... No. Okay, there we go. Well, this is interesting. A second factory just as the observer leaves. The medevac's still making its way to the main of his opponent, and it looks like we have sLh just not avidly aware, but definitely aware that there's going to be some kind of harass. As you can see, the observer basically revealed that for him. And it looks like we're going to have sHOKZ going with a kind of mech play versus sLh here. Now, the real question is, will we see sLh become aware of that? He's going to see the medevac here. Ignite afterburners, is it going to go down? It will, but oh! The medevac gets shot down, and that is a ton of resources lost for our Terran. That's 200 gas and... Ooh, interesting. A Raven. 200 gas and 4 times 75 means 300 minerals, plus the price of that medevac. Of course, that's already with the gas accounted for. So now sLh is going to send a scouting Phoenix out to get a read on his opponent and just figure out what the hell he's trying to do right now. We do have an armory coming down, so this tells me that perhaps we're going to see some Hellbats integrated into the play, if nothing but a few minutes from now. The Phoenix comes in here, it sees the 3 factories, and just how does our Protoss respond to that? He's got +1/+1 ground weapons on the way, Twilight Council going down now, and I'm thinking perhaps he could end up following this up with a Templar Archives, get that AoE out. He knows that, I'm pretty sure that he knows that his opponent's going for Hellbats, yes. So he's got a handful of Stalkers right now. He's going to try and throw down some Photon Cannons, get the static defenses up, because he can't be everywhere when those medevac drops come in with the Hellbats. And what is this? Tanks. Alright, tanks galore. Now double Hellbats getting cranked out, but it looks like our Terran just encountered a temporary supply block. Not going to put him too far behind. Definitely, not by any means. It looks like sHOKZ is going to warp in some Zealots and take him into the main. Poke around, get a better read on his opponent, and the such. Twilight Council is researching Blink. Interesting choice by our Protoss. Extended Thermal Lance now going down, and that's going to help just cut through all of those Hellbats as they come into play. Looks like we're going to have our Protoss going straight for the mineral line, and that's a beautiful defensive Hellbat micro. We see the Zealots getting a few kills, but nothing too substantial. And if you guys will just carefully examine what we see from our Terran right now, there's actually nothing in the way of anti-air here. No missile turrets, nothing that can shoot up in his main army. But speaking of, we do actually have 1 Thor on the way. What are the upgrades at right now? Looks like there was a pause in the middle of this game. 3rd Nexus now going down for our Teal Toss. Missile turrets getting dotted in the main of sHOKZ. He wants to make sure he is well defended against whatever comes his way. And it looks like, if I had to guess, I would say that sHOKZ is going to take an Expo over here. Zealots basically taking control of the map. Getting microed out of that warp prism. +2/+2 now on the way for our Protoss as well. Extended Thermal Lance as well as Blink are both finishing up right now. 4 more gateways getting tacked on, and it looks like we're going to have our Protoss take a bunch of gateway units to the fight. This probe, I believe... No, excuse me, it was an observer that got caught out in the open. This is really dangerous for our Protoss. The Zealot on this Xel'Naga Watchtower now basically exposes the entire main army that is headed his way presently. And I want to say that he's in a lot of trouble. He doesn't have what it takes to really hold against this just yet. The tanks can outrange the Colossi. The Thor can act as anti-air. He's even got detection here so that one hallucinated Colossus won't do him too much good. Now the force fields are going down, and that will help out a lot for the Hellbats. If they get those sentries, which are in red health right now, he's in a lot of trouble. The The Thor comes forward to take down the force fields, and it looks like we lost one sentry there. The Immortal's still good to go. We have more Colossi on the way, and I want to say that for the time being, our Protoss is going to hold, but his Terran opponent is looking for that opening, that moment where he can put on pressure and take his Expo at the same time, and that moment seems to be now. Probe's moving to the third, and it looks like we actually have these Thors moving to attack the Colossi. The Hellbats trying to break through. The Thor cannot take down those force fields. He's too far behind the Hellbats. They're actually just blocking his way, and finally they dissipate. Now a lot of Blink Stalkers in the mix here. It looks like our Mothership Core is barely still alive after that, but here's the more important part. The third is actually... He's cut off from the third. He's got no way to get there, and our Terran is actually aware of that. Once this pylon falls, it will basically put a slight block on sLH's production, but nothing I feel that would be game-ending. This one Hellion coming in and just poking away at those probes one at a time. Comparing the army sizes right now, I want to say sLH is slightly ahead, but those Widow Mines are what's going to keep him totally left back. One Stalker, probably going to blink forward. Blinks out. It looks like the tanks are going to have a field day on this Nexus and the pylon right next to it. Once that falls, it means another supply block, and we have more and more Colossi coming into the mix. It looks like one of them did fall, unfortunately, and we have our Protoss in a position that's becoming increasingly uncomfortable to engage in. He's got no income because the Hellion took down all the workers on that third. He's got no income on the third, I mean to say, and the tanks are just continuing to leapfrog forward. I think one thing that... No, it couldn't. He could probably throw some Zealots around back to try and flank, and it looks like maybe, just maybe, we'll see him try to do that. Does he have charge? He doesn't have charge. That's going to work against him. Blink forward into the main army. The tanks are now shooting away at everything that is armored here, grouped up, going straight at him. It looks like the Hellbats cut off the Zealots. We still have this one trying to struggle and get that tower, and it looks as though we have our Protoss opting to cut off reinforcements. He's going to get a good snipe on that tank. And it looks like with that, we're going to see iSHOKZ just move forward with this base trade scenario. Is there a Mothership Core? I think not, but this one Colossus has been neglected here. He's going to catch a couple of tanks out of position, but I think he'll be lucky to take one down. The mineral line is now being absolutely decimated, and it looks like this pulled sLH out of position just long enough for iSHOKZ to put a lot of hurt on the main and the natural, as we do have a Hellbat drop going in there. And the income has been shot to hell for sLH. I want to say that after this engagement, he's got limited lifespan in this game. How will he come back from that is the real question. This one Nexus being eaten alive by a brave little a brave little red flame Hellion, and that's it. Widow Mine's going off, just basically salting the wounds of sLH. It looks like finally that drop was dealt with in the main. Ouch! This one Widow Mine took down a Colossus. That's not going to help him in future engagements, unfortunately. And it looks like we're going to have yet another medevac drop with Hellbats going into the main. I don't think our Stalkers are aware of that. Or are they? It might have been a slight misclick. Yes, he's going to try and stop it. But where is it now? It's right here. It's waiting for the moment that we see sLH actually move out. His income right now is 3 times lower than that, 4 times lower than that of his opponent. If he can come back in this game, that would be the biggest comeback I've ever seen. But it's going to take a ring and a prayer for him to do that, guys. So there it is, the medevac drop going into the main. It looks like, oh no, the Stalkers got pulled out at just the wrong moment, but it's alright because there's nothing but a barren and exposed mineral line here. Stalkers trying to make their move on the third, and it looks like we have our Protoss just basically being well read by our Terran. Excuse me, hiccups. And a scan goes down, revealing all the Stalkers as well as what is remaining of this Protoss Deathball, trying to move forward onto his opponent. It looks like iSHOKZ is all but ready for it. There we go, he's getting ready to take down these rocks, and then what? I don't know. Positioning of all this, the tanks are a bit far back here. If he could leapfrog some of these forward, that would actually help him all the more for holding this engagement. But it's just going to take moments and moments and moments for that to really work out. Hellbat's looking like they're trying to put on some hurt, maybe secure some ground, or maybe just do a slow run by. And I think maybe these Stalkers and the Colossi are going to run across it. But no, maybe they're just looking for better positioning versus this entire Terran army. And that would not be a faulty line of thought, given that all our Terran's main army is completely out of position. Is he going to be able to do it or not? He's got Colossi, so he'll have the ability to blink in if he so pleases. He does with just a handful of Stalkers. Takes down a missile turret. He's buying time. And no, it looks like these Hellbats are actually going to advance on the position of the third base. And even more economic damage would be the last thing that we want to the already 41 probes that have been killed by our Protoss. But wait, it looks like the main is being abandoned by our Terran. He's not going to stay behind and try and save it. Instead, he's going to try and take down the main army. But the positioning of these tanks, most of them are too far back to do anything about it. And it looks like we have the Colossi eating through all of those Hellbats. And the leftover Stalkers blink forward, taking down most of the tanks. But the Hellbats are back here eating the third base alive. I don't know if our Protoss is going to make it back in time to save it. If not, he's left just in shambles in terms of economy. He's going to be forced to saturate his main, which is about the only thing left. These Stalkers being microed for all they're worth, and the third does fall behind all of this. It looks like these Stalkers are going to probably be able to take down one tank, and that is it. Now we do have the rest of the main army from iSHOKZ moving forward. He says, okay, enough's enough and I gotta end this game. 1400 mineral income to that of his opponent. The only way he can screw this up now is if he right clicks into his opponent's into this Protoss's entire main army. Opponent. But now we have double Phoenix, excuse me, double Stargate, which probably indicates Phoenix coming out in the near future. Is there a Dark Shrine? Says this mech, so yeah, you can tell that he's not too happy about it. Now nothing but Hellbats and tanks here. If we just had one Void Ray in the mix, I think that would actually, do a considerable amount of damage to our Terran. But seeing as there's a Thorn of Viking right now, I don't see that happening all too well. The Observer has a full-blown read on this. And it looks like behind this, there's another Hellbat drop happening, this time at the natural. But look at iSHOKZ, he's actually moving on to the third now, and if this falls again, I want to say that income is going to be shot. Now we have our Protoss just moving back into the main, trying to get his money back in, and he's taking a fleet beacon. I think one carrier in all of this could actually do him some good, but of course, with the starport there, I mean, it's able to crank out double Vikings if it actually comes right down to it, and must. Beautiful physics as we do see probes being blown away. And there it is, the blink forward onto everything here that iSHOKZ owns. He's gonna make some damage happen here, but this is just forcing iSHOKZ to come back home again after killing the third of his opponent. This one Thor gets caught out of position. sLh, you know, he's making really, really effective use of what he's got so far. He's actually lost less than his Terran opponent, but the thing is, his Terran opponent can actually afford to throw away all of what he's got now, except for what we see happening presently, because we do see this going into the low econ mode. Blink forward into the main. The Colossi look like slowly but surely they will fall. And now we have tanks sieging up in position where they will be able to stop the Protoss army from escaping. Stalkers blinking onto all of these tanks, and it looks like now only one or two of them are alive to tell the tale. The last one actually is over here at the third, trying to cause some economic havoc. And speaking of the natural falls, there's no Stargate units, even though there's double Stargate here. Our Protoss simply was not able to get any ground busters out. He wasn't able to get any Void Rays out. He wasn't able to get any Phoenixes out. He says, I can play 10 times better than you. And it looks like, and still, he says, I know, and still lost. I want to say that for the most part, he's with that comment, he's kind of right. He's kind of right. Look at this. I mean, they're about even in terms of resources lost right now, and if you examine who's actually had the higher income this entire game, it's actually been iSHOKZ. It's just that he's had the opportunities to throw everything away. Planetary Fortress down here at the bottom left, so it looks like our Protoss will not be attacking into that. He's got a chance to really cause economic havoc at his opponent's third right here. Scan goes down, and I feel this might have revealed the fourth base. No, it did not, but the Stargates have been taken down. There's nothing else to shoot. And with that, we see that sLh was defeated. He simply left the game. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys liked what you saw here today, just go ahead and click on that subscribe button below this video. This is Breaker. I'll see you guys next time.